Good afternoon. I'm Dan with Four Winds Ancestral Skills. Today I'll be talking about natural cordage, what you can use to tie your world together when you're out here in the woods. We got a lot to do, so stick around. You may be asking yourself, what exactly is natural cordage? Well, in short, it's any kind of natural material you find out here that you can use to lash things together. Back in the ancient times, man didn't have screws or nails or anything like that, so he had to essentially tie his world together. To do that, he didn't have paracord or rope or bank line, but he did have lots of plants and even some animal products that you can use to make into a type of cordage. Different things have different strengths. I'm in the Ozarks right now, and nettle and dogbane are two that I know are really good around here, but there's a lot of others. But lots of plants can be used to make cordage. Don't think that you need like one specific plant. Any number of plants, as long as they have certain characteristics, will work well. In general, they need to be stringy. If you've ever eaten a piece of celery, those little strings in there are kind of what you're looking for to make good cordage. They kind of give you the small pieces that you can reverse wrap together to make larger cordage, make small stuff all the way up to rope, essentially. But it's all kind of the same technique, just used a little bit differently. So in this video, I'm going to go over that technique, how to choose your plant, harvest it, get the little strings out that you're going to ultimately want, the little fibers, and reverse wrap that into cordage. Now, when it comes to lashings, you can use vines like this here, a piece of Virginia creeper. These vines are ridiculous, or at least around here. They grow up trees and up houses and everything else. They get extremely long. So you can use those as a lashing, but just be aware of the limits. You can usually take the vine and kind of wrap it around and lash something, but they're not terribly strong, and you can't not put them in knots. I'll show you here. You try to put them in knots and tighten them down, and they'll just start breaking, and they're not good for that. That's the main reason you want to get the fibers out of plants is for that reason, though. The fibers are flexible enough they just won't snap when you bend the whole plant. So you extract the fibers, which is where most of your strength and flexibility comes from, and those are the ones that you ultimately use. So I'll come over here, see what we got to work with. Alright, we have a stand here of giant ragweed. It's not really edible, but it's useful for a few different things, so it's not too bad of a plant. The stems, if you let them grow in a single season, they'll get to the size almost of a small tree. Once they do achieve that, they'll end up dying, and over the winter, and usually into the early spring, you can actually take those stems, those stalks, and cut those into little chunks, something like that, maybe a little bit longer. You can use those as blow tubes to blow into your fire, to blow a hot coal if you're trying to make like a burn bowl or something like that. So they're actually really useful for that as well. But they do have a lot of stringy fibers, so they're also really good for making cordage. I'll cut a piece here. And you can just get rid of the old leaves. And generally you want to get a little older ones. The really young ones don't have as good a cordage, so this is not terribly big, but it'll still work for demonstration purposes. What I'll do is I'll get a few more of these, and then we'll go over, have a seat, and I'll show you how to process them. So, say you got a stalk like this. What you're looking for is these threads that come out of here. As you can see, I can peel off a huge chunk of this material all in one piece. Now ideally you want these threads to be as long as possible, so when you're doing this, just do it very carefully. Now, to give you an example here, as you can see there's still an end left on here. What you can do is kind of pry that up, pry that away from this material right here. This is really what you want. Sometimes there'll be a little bit of pith, stuff like that, left on the inside. You can scrape that off. But as you can see, I got a fairly long piece right here that's pretty good length. But what I really want to do is, ultimately this is made up of little fibers, which can be further split. And just like I mentioned with a piece of celery, this has those little fibers that make up the real strength of this cordage. Okay, we got some bigger stuff over here separated, and we have some finer threads over here separated. Just wanted to kind of highlight the difference between this. You can separate it into these really fine threads that are fairly strong, and if you reverse wrap these into a cordage, you'll be able to make a lot smaller, stronger cordage with this here. But that doesn't mean that you don't want to ignore something like this, because this is a lot faster to do. So it just kind of depends on the application you want here. But also keep in mind, when you're doing the reverse wrap, you can start with as little as one thread and reverse wrap that, or you can start with a whole stack of threads and make a thicker type of cordage. I'm going to use the bigger stuff just because it's probably a little bit easier to see. But you get a piece that you want to do, and you kind of twist it until it bends in on itself like that. And then you pinch that with your left hand if you're right-handed like I am. And what you want to do, the motion is simple and it's very repetitive. You twist the top away from you, grab the bottom, and bring it back. It's just like that. So you keep this side here pinched to kind of hold it. Twist this side and back. Twist this side and back. So what you're doing is just twisting the top, grabbing the bottom, and then twisting both of them together. You do that motion, and making cordage, that you just keep going with that motion. Now, you can see here that it doesn't take long to start making some decent progress once you get it going. And it's kind of one speed, just going here. Now you might ask yourself, well, what happens when you reach the end of one of these pieces? Like, here's the end over here. What you can do is splice in another piece. So you try to get a comparable size piece, because you don't want to have it bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller. So ideally you want to try to get a comparable size piece, but let's just say that this piece ended right there. Just splice this one in, twist it, and do the same motion, and then you have two longer sides back again. And that's pretty much all there is to the reverse wrap. It's that motion, and you can use it innumerable ways. You can use it like this with, it would be called one ply, because there's just one on each side, or you can take multiple ones and literally do the same thing. There we go. Now, let's say we got a stack of fibers here. We can still technically reverse wrap that using the same method. We start off with a twist till it bends like that. Hold it with our left hand, our left fingers here, and then do the same motion. Top, just twist away from us, grab the bottom bundle, and bring it to the top. And once again, twist that one, bring it to the top. And bring it to the top. And what you'll see here, you can make a lot thicker piece all at once. You can see it's quite a bit thicker because it's multiple pieces of this string. And kind of the same thing, we're kind of running low on this side. So what we would do is splice in new pieces here. Now this is where it's a little bit trickier than the single ply, because you want to try to keep it the same width so you don't have it getting bigger and smaller and so on and so forth. And you just want to keep doing that on and on and on and on. You can make fairly quickly a decent sized cord that you can use to lash something or tie something down with using this method. Another thing you can do kind of to maximize your strength of your cordage. Here's a piece of the smaller stuff that I reverse wrapped. And what you can do, you can see this is just one small thread reverse wrapped here. What you can do is take this, kind of the same thing, twist it there into this little end, and then reverse wrap this. So now you've doubled up on this cordage here. It was one thread reverse wrapped, and now it's technically 4-ply, and this is a little bit stronger than if you were to make a bigger one like this. You do this a bunch of times and it will be stronger than one that's just reverse wrapped like this. Nothing to say something like this doesn't work quite well, but if you're trying to maximize the strength, that's how you do it. You take pieces and just continue back and forth reverse wrapping them. And as you can see, once you kind of get into the rhythm, it doesn't take a whole lot. You can make some decent cordage. But this stuff here is fairly strong and it's fairly small. One good way to tell when you're making cordage, you really want strength and flexibility, because you don't want it to try to tie a knot and it just breaks on you. So a good way to tell is take your finger and wrap it around your finger and see how well it'll hold. So this stuff here is pretty flexible and it's pretty strong for the size it is. So this larger one here, same thing. It's pretty strong for what it is, and it'll wrap around the finger. When you are splicing in, little pieces will be popping out here. That's not a big deal. You can take a lighter and burn them off, or take some scissors and kind of burn them off. But either way, it doesn't degrade from the the strength of your cordage just makes it look a little more primitive, which nothing wrong with that. Another option, come across some dried, these are dewberry vines, but you can see here there's a lot of little stringy stuff coming off. Same thing, you can take these fine threads here and you can take this, and same thing like I was showing before, have a number of threads on each side. Try to make them fairly even. It's not super critical, but it makes for better cordage. So take a number of the threads, same thing, twist away, then back, twist away, back, so on and so forth. So you can just do that, and as you can see here, I made 1 inch of cordage in, I don't know, 30 seconds or 45 seconds, whatever it was. Not terribly long, just to show you that dry vines like that, sometimes if they have these little stringy sections, it's really easy to use. So you don't have to go through quite as many steps to take the live plants and process them. And you can make pretty good cordage out of nettles too. So, and it kind of has the texture of this after it's dead and dried. So it has a lot of like stringy fibers that you can just pull apart. Cedar trees have similar. Cedar trees, you can go up and pull the bark off, and it has kind of stringy stuff like this. It works really well too. So the method, the reverse wrap method, you can use that for anything, even modern materials like paracord, bank line. If you have, let's say you have a 100-pound or 120-pound test bank line, and you need it to hold a heavier load, you can reverse wrap it on itself, essentially adding more plies to it, more layers, and you can make it stronger bank line. So you have a 120-pound bank line, you have a 200-pound load, well, you can reverse wrap it once or twice, and you should be able to utilize that. So it's a pretty simple method. Once you get the hang of it, you can use it for anything, any kind of cordage-related stuff. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you learned a lot and are able to put that knowledge of natural cordage to good use. Anyway, if you have any sort of questions, comments, concerns, feel free to shoot me an email, fourwindsancestral@gmail.com. Check out our website at fourwindsancestralskills.com. And we also have a Facebook group. If you go to the Four Winds Ancestral Skills website and scroll all the way down, you'll see the Facebook banner. And with that, I'm Dan with Four Winds Ancestral Skills, and I'll catch you out on the trail. Take care.